I said something that his mom disapproved of, and so she started calling me names and telling me that I was belittling me as a mother, and then stepped out of the vehicle to come confront me face to face, and then violence occurred.
So I'm trying to sort things out because I have to. That's my job, since you all can't. And that's how we do it in a civil society.
I just want to keep in mind that when Kyle beat the shit out of me, his grandma tried to beat him off with a broomstick.
This is Judge Dulce Madrigal. I'm hearing cases in Guadalupe County today. Present in my virtual courtroom are both parents. That would be the non-custodial parent, Kyle James Poole, and the custodial parent, Taylor Whitney Shelton.
The Attorney General's office is here and has conferred with both parties. They had agreed to a temporary order, joint managing conservatorship, a modified visitation schedule, agreed child support amount set at $283 a month, an agreed medical support amount of $100 a month, a modified visitation schedule that was every first, third, and fifth Saturday. Those visits were also ordered to be supervised. After conferring with parties, I believe that they are in disagreement about how to finalize these temporary orders or to make more further temporary orders. I think the primary issues before the court today are the issues of visitation, perhaps retroactive child support, and the issue of the child's surname. I think those are the main issues. And so with that, Your Honor, state would like to call witnesses.
Okay, and just so you're aware, they're going to call each of you individually, one at a time. They get to decide who they start with. So while you're testifying, I'm going to ask the other person to not interrupt, not try to give your thoughts in the middle of somebody else's testimony. You'll be given the same courtesy when it's your turn. If you're both talking at the same time, I have to stop you. We just have to go back and forth so my record is clean. So, Mr. Valderas?
Yes, Your Honor. State will call Ms. Taylor Shelton. Those terms that I told the court with regard to the temporary order, can you tell the court how have those temporary orders gone so far up to now since October?
Not successful.
Okay. And so how many visits have taken place since October?
One.
One? Okay. And why is that?
The first weekend, that was Kyle's weekend, Paisley was sick. The second weekend, Kyle failed to comply to the court order and didn't let me know before 8 o'clock that the visit was going to take effect that Saturday. So that was a no for that weekend. The third weekend, I let Kyle know a week ahead of time that I did have a mandatory work day that Saturday. And then I did, I also, obviously, he called me that Saturday as I was heading to work, and I did send him pictures of me being at work so that he knew that I was working. And then the fourth Saturday, we did show up to the park in Bryan, and that was a non-successful visit due to violence.
Okay. Was that violence between you and Mr. Poole, or you and someone else?
Me and his mom. And
okay.
It also, I feel like it was unsuccessful because Paisley did not want to, that was just clearly somewhere Paisley did not want to be, for the simple fact that I couldn't let her go for the first hour, and she put her head in my shoulder, not wanting to be there.
Okay. And can you
So
tell the court how old
I was forcing her to do things that she didn't want to do.
Can you remind the court how old Miss Paisley is?
Yes, she's 3.
3? Okay. And let's get back to the violence part. What happened between yourself and his mother?
I was having a conversation with Kyle in the back of the car, and I said something that his mom disapproved of, and so she started calling me names and telling me that I was belittling me as a mother, and then stepped out of the vehicle to come confront me face to face, and then violence occurred.
Were the police called?
Yes, I called them.
You called them, and was anybody arrested?
No, it's still an ongoing investigation.
I missed your words about what happened when you stepped out of the vehicle and she confronted you. What exactly happened?
No, ma'am, she stepped out of the vehicle to come confront me face to face.
And then what family violence happened?
We got into a altercation.
Well, describe it to me. I need to know exactly what happened. Was it just verbal? Was it physical? To what extent?
No, it was verbal and physical.
Well, describe the physical part.
Well, she hit me and then I hit her back.
Did she hit you with a slap on
A
the face,
fist.
on the body, a fist? What happened?
Fist to my nose
And how'd you hit her back?
with my fist.
With your fist? On what body part?
Her face.
There was only one punch between y'all?
No, it was a good, we lashed out at each other for a good minute.
How did it stop?
I stopped and took Paisley and walked away and called the police.
And she saw the whole thing, the child?
Yes. She
Who-
wasn't, she was in the vehicle when it had happened, but she was there.
And so the police knew that you were both striking blows?
Yes.
And so is that why they walked away? They didn't want to arrest either of you or both of you?
No, they didn't watch it happen. They showed up after the math, after I was already to my vehicle with my daughter.
But no arrests and no charges came of it?
No, it's still an ongoing investigation.
And what happened physically? Are there bruises? Are there gashes? Are there any physical signs?
I don't know about Miss Poole, but the only thing I had was a bruise to my nose, which isn't there anymore. But I do have pictures.
It didn't occur to you to step back and not engage?
It did.
It didn't?
No, it did.
It did? Even with your daughter there watching?
Just a self-defense. This isn't the first time that this family has had that I have encountered violence with this family. Mr. Poole has a domestic violence charge against him because he's been physical before.
Was he involved
his
in
mom-
altercation?
No.
It was just you two women?
Yes.
Does his mother have a background of family violence?
Yes.
Other than his mother, have you been involved in the family violence with either Mr. Poole, his mother, or anybody else?
The family domestic violence charge against Mr. Poole was from me.
Was it on you or from
Yes.
you?
From me.
Did you fight back when you were with Mr. Poole?
Yes. I did use self-defense. Yes.
Was a child around that
Yes.
time? How old was the child then?
She was under 2, so I think she was 1.5 at the time.
Did it happen more than that one time?
Yes, it's happened on multiple counts. That was the first time I actually decided to press charges.
And what happened to the charges?
I believe they dropped them.
You haven't
It
had-
wasn't domestic violence, it was a charge. Domestic violence charge.
And why would they have dropped them if they were that serious?
I don't know. That's a good question. They have a 911 call with me struggling to breathe and everything else. So I don't know why it would have gotten dropped.
And you didn't follow up to find out?
No, I did. I called and all that they could tell me is that the charges had been dropped. They didn't allow me to show up to be involved in the trial or anything. They didn't call me to tell me when the trial was going on or anything.
Usually when the charges are dropped, they don't go to trial. So I'm not sure what part of that, what happened, the trial was on and they were dropped after trial or dismissed or?
Yeah, they were dismissed.
But in a courtroom?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there.
Well, you said there was a trial, so you knew about something after the fact.
No, Kyle had called me and had told me that the charges had been dropped. And when I called, that's all that they could tell me was that they were dropped.
So you don't know if there was an actual trial?
No.
Okay. Getting back to you and grandma, y'all can't be in the same room together?
No, clearly not.
Well, it's disturbing to know that every single one of you has allowed family violence in front of the child. That's not healthy and that's not good. Okay, let me move on. Mr. Valderas, unless you can think of any other questions on the actual family violence occurring from that incident.
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
But I did want to ask Ms. Shelton, how did the visit go up until that point?
It was mutual. Like it was very mutual.
And by mutual, would you say that you and Mr. Poole were able to get along well enough to have an okay visit with Paisley?
Yes.
The incident that occurred, was that in the parking lot?
Yes.
Parking lot to where?
The I'm not exactly sure what the mall name was, but it was the mall closest to the park that we were at.
Okay. And was this in Bryan, Texas?
Yes.
And according to the visitation order, you're both to meet at a halfway point, and is Bryan the halfway point that y'all meet at?
Yes.
Um, how far away is a drive for you to from where you live now to Bryan?
2.5 hours.
Okay, and is that the same for Mr. Poole, roughly?
Yes.
Uh, in the times that the visitation did not occur, did you call Mr. Poole to let him know that Paisley was sick, or what happened at
Yes.
that point?
Yes, I did. I did give him a few days notice beforehand that she was sick. And then the following weekend we had spoken, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday, and then Friday came along and didn't hear from Mr. Poole. So I kept Paisley.
Okay. And the time, did you try to make up that day with Mr. Poole and try to make it a different day if it couldn't be on that?
I tried to make up for it the following Sunday.
Okay. And then what happened? He declined to have that visit, or why did that not work out?
What do you mean? I didn't hear from Mr. Poole, so I didn't do anything.
What about the time when you had to work? Did you try to make up that visit?
No, I did not. Yeah, actually I did. I gave him the altercation of if he wanted to make it up that Sunday.
Did he respond to that?
I can go back and look.
Okay. But ultimately, what is it that you want to change about the visitation schedule if the court changes the visitation schedule?
Everything.
Okay. So,
I don't feel like it's in my daughter's best interest to be on the roads. That's not fair to her to have to be in a car seat for 5 hours every other weekend.
do you think the visit should take place closer to where you live?
I think it would be in Paisley's best interest if she was visiting him somewhere where she felt safe and comfortable visiting. And I don't think it's fair for me to have to sit 5 hours away from home while he has Paisley in his custody. That doesn't allow me, what am I supposed to do? Just sit there with my hands in my lap for 5 hours?
Okay. So, if your preference, but I want to get your preference down. Do you want the visits to take place at your residence or somewhere local to you?
My residence is fine.
Okay. So then he would know where you live. Would that be okay?
Yes.
All right. And how long do you think the visit should be if that's the case?
5-6 hours.
Okay. We had talked about it earlier, and do you believe that the visit should be every first, third, and fifth Saturday, or should they be something like once per month?
Once per month.
And if they are once per month, would you want them to be from 1 to 5 p.m. at your residence?
Yes.
And would that take into account that it would give him time to start driving that distance?
Yes.
And to go back? Would you want it to be on Saturday or Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday.
Okay. Is it possible for him to have it on Sunday as well?
Yes.
If it's on Sunday as well, would 1 to 5 p.m. be a good time for that
Yes, sir.
visit as well? Do you go to church on Sundays?
Yes.
And what time does church end?
It ends at noon, at 12.
Okay. Because it occurs to me that if he were to travel for that visit, it would be a lot to just travel 5 hours and then visit and then travel back another 5 hours. So maybe he'd want to stay for another day to make the trip worth it. Would that be something that you would consider?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With regard to and when it comes to the visits like that, do you believe that visits should continue that way for indefinitely until Paisley's 18 years old, or you think that that should be something that the supervised visits at your residence should be something that's done away with over time?
No, I think when Paisley's old enough to be compliant to something different and can speak a little bit more for herself, then they should stay that way until
Okay.
for the time being.
We've heard about your, altercation with his mother and about the family violence that occurred in the past between you and Mr. Poole. Do you believe that Mr. Poole would intentionally harm Paisley?
Yes,
Okay, why do you say that?
because of anger issues.
Has he ever physically harmed Paisley in the past?
No, not physical. No.
Has he emotionally harmed her?
Yes. I
How
think
so?
being able to put your hands on the mother of a child in front of your child is putting your daughter in harm's way. Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you have concerns that Mr. Poole would put your daughter at risk?
Yes.
And what are those concerns?
Putting her in places she shouldn't be or around people that she shouldn't be surrounded by.
Where Mr. Poole lives, in Toole, Texas, there. Do you believe he lives in a safe neighborhood?
A what?
A safe neighborhood?
No, absolutely not. I meant to bring it to your attention earlier when Paisley was 6 months old and I was living at Mr. Poole's residency. We had someone break in our home when Paisley was only 6 months old, and I woke up to them by my bedside. We did call the police, and they did find drugs on this guy, and this guy was unaware that he was in my home. He was claiming that he was in the woods because he was strung out on drugs. And Mr. Poole was not at our residency at the time because he was drunk on someone else's couch holding someone else's infant, and was not aware of the situation until all the police were arrived at our house.
Okay. So that incident, but are there other things that make you concerned about his household being a safe environment for Paisley?
It's not a safe environment.
Okay, tell the court why, because we don't know. So you got to tell us. Because
he's surrounded by he's surrounded by drug addicts. He has a drug addict that lives across the street. There's a that lives 2 houses over. These people live in campers and pitch tents, and that's just not the kind of environment I want my daughter growing up in. I established living in a safe neighborhood that's well off, surrounded by a good environment of people, because that's the kind of community that I want to see Paisley fit for. I don't want her thinking that's okay, that's how people are supposed to live. I work a full-time job. I go to school full-time because I want better for my daughter.
Okay. When it comes to the child support terms, child support set at $283 a month, medical support set at $100 per month. Is the medical support through your current employer?
No, sir. It's through my mom's insurance.
Your mom's insurance?
Through her work. Yes.
Okay. And so do you think, and then the child support was set at $283 per month. Do you believe that it should continue to be set at that rate, or do you think it should be higher or lower?
No, it should be higher. And it's set at minimum wage, and Mr. Poole's capable of making more than that working for Mitchell.
Okay. And so you think it should be higher than 283?
Yes.
Okay. The medical support of $100 a month, has your mom's insurance changed or
no, sir, it's still 100.
Still 100? Okay. Are you asking for retroactive child support in this case?
What is that?
Retroactive child support is child support that would have been due for the times that you were not living together, and yes. Mr. Poole was, should have provided for Paisley. support for her. So that's what retroactive child support is. And so, can you tell the court, since Paisley was born in November of 2020, how many months were you and Mr. Poole living together, even on an off and on basis?
4 months.
4 months? Okay. And so do you believe that Mr. Poole should be ordered to pay 31 months of retroactive child support?
Yes.
All right. Well, I think I'll save those questions for Mr. Poole, but with regard to Paisley's last name, her last name is Shelton right now. Do you want the court to order that remain her last name, or
yes,
do you believe
that is
that
Paisley's identity? She knows who she is. She knows Paisley Shelton. Kyle had 5 days up until the point where Paisley was born. He knew she was born. He had the chance. The doctors told me he had 5 days to go up to the hospital and change her last name and allow himself to be on the birth certificate. He did not.
Okay. And so for that reason, you don't think Paisley's last name should be Poole?
I think that Paisley knows who her identity is, and that's who she's been for the last 3 years, and I don't see a valid reason to have it changed.
Okay. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to ask you for now.
Okay.
But I may ask you some more questions after talking to Mr. Poole, okay?
Okay.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Just real quick, do you actually remember the date of your separation? Like the month and the year?
August 10th, 2022.
2022? The child was born in November of 2020, so that y'all were together more than 4 months, maybe?
No, we were on and off. We were separated for a bunch of that time. It was always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Well, that's yeah, back and forth means you're still engaged and not quite separated yet. Your last separation was August 10th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay, that's when you finally called it quits, both of you?
Yes.
And tell me where the relationship was for the most part. Was it at his area, your area, and who left who to end up where you are now, separated
A
by?
little bit of both. I did 4 months at his house. He did a few months at my house. For the most time throughout that time period, we were separated. He was living at his house and I was living at my house.
And that's where you are now?
Yes.
So this distance was always kind of there and you went back and forth?
Ma'am, can you say that again?
The distance was there. I mean, where did y'all meet? Your house, his house? Which area did you meet at, or where'd you meet?
At the time I was going to college in Tyler.
And
so it was that's where we met at the time.
And that's where you took a residency with him, or what?
Throughout my pregnancy, I lived at home. Kyle didn't meet our daughter until she was 5 months old. I had moved back with him for a month at max before I came back home, and then it was always just on and off talking, back and forth, back and forth.
So since you met him when you were in college in Tyler, he stayed in Tyler, and
he lived in Toole.
Where?
In Toole, Texas.
I don't know.
It's an hour and 20 minutes from Tyler.
Closer to you or further from you?
Further from me.
And what was he doing in Tyler? Was he going to school too, or some other reason?
No, we just met at a friends get together.
But you met him over where he was at, and then you went back and forth a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's situation is different. Things are getting more and more complicated because of it's easy to travel, it's easy to meet people anywhere, and then not live there or live there briefly. But the law kind of, so both of you here that, we look at where your relationship was, and then one of you left and created the distance, then you may have the burden to go back to allow the visits. Now, I don't know if it was mutual here, so maybe the best bet would be to put the burden on both of you. or not. So I need you to know what the law is. If he had met you over here and y'all lived over here and then he left far away, then he'd have the burden. So it's not so clear cut in your case that doesn't fall within the, the round peg and the square hole is really what happens a lot around here. So I just need you to know where my starting point is from the basis of the law, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do and why. Anything you want to add to that, Ms. Shelton?
I was forced to move back home because Mr. Poole couldn't provide the way that he should have. So I don't think that that's necessarily fair.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm making it a point to see what your responses are. Okay, anything else you want to say?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Mr. Poole, with regard to this case, can you tell the court from your perspective what occurred on the visitation day that you had that led up to the altercation between Miss Shelton and your mother?
Yes, sir. We started at the park where it is agreed in the last court order agreement, the temporary. Everything was going good. There is pictures and videos of me and Pay playing on the playground within, say, 25 to 30 minutes. We left there because Pay wanted to go eat pizza, so we went to Chuck E. Cheese, and she played every game in there. She was smiling. It was all good. We got through at Chuck E. Cheese. We walked through the mall. Everything was good at this point. We go back to the car. We're all sitting at the car talking. Me and Taylor, we're talking, and we were kind of at a disagreement on some things. And all my mom said was, we're not going to argue in front of the baby. We need to quit trying to use Pay as a crutch. At that point, Taylor jumped out of the back of the car. My mom got out of the back seat. Taylor pushed my mom, hit my mom, went from there. I split them up 3 different times. Taylor kept going back. At that 3rd time, I let them go. I grabbed Paisley and I walked down the parking lot away from them. And all of that is on recording on that camera at the mall.
Okay. And the visits prior to that day, is it true that Miss Shelton, for various reasons, they were not able to be done because of Paisley being sick or Miss Shelton having to work?
The first one, she said that Pay was sick. And then she did say she had to work, but I text her every time that I was supposed to be able to see Pay. As long as it was before Thursday at 8 p.m. is what the paperwork says. And it was. It might have been a day or two prior to that, but it was there. I have all of the text messages and everything typed up and in my email. I've got paperwork from where Pay was here with the dates on it. I've got all of that for you.
And so why do you think that the visits didn't occur in your opinion?
Honestly, I have no idea. I do not want to speak on something that I do not know certain of.
Okay. And with regard to the visits themselves in a court order, what do you want to change about them?
I want to be able to see my kid. And I feel like, honestly, it being down there in her household around her mother is a really bad idea because her mother has hated me since day one. She has talked all kinds of stuff about me. I don't feel comfortable putting myself in that situation.
Is it fair to say that neither of your mothers get along with the other parent?
I mean, most of the time, my mom and Taylor are fine. I mean, they live together in the same house and never had an altercation until that day.
Do you believe that the visits should continue to be at College Station, the halfway point? I'm sorry, Bryan, the halfway point?
No, sir, I do not.
Where would you want the visits to take place?
I would like for my daughter to be able to see the rest of her family and not just know one side.
So do you want the visits to take place at your residence?
My residence or my aunt's house. Either one.
Where does your aunt live?
15 minutes from me.
Is that also in Tool, Texas?
No, sir, that is in Gun Barrel.
Gun Barrel, Texas?
Yes, sir.
What's your aunt's name?
Ashley Harris.
Okay. And so, when do you think the visit should take place? On which day? Should it be on the first, third, and fifth Saturday, or once per month, or what time? How many times a month do you believe the visit should take place?
As many as possible.
And so, do you want the court to order Ms. Shelton to drive Paisley to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell the court, has there been an incidence of family violence between you and Ms. Shelton in the past that caused you to get charges for family violence?
Yes, sir. There was an altercation, but it was dropped to lack of evidence, is exactly what the judge of Henderson County told me.
Were you arrested for that?
I turned myself in because I had a warrant.
Okay. When did you turn yourself in?
Oh, man, I cannot remember. I think it would be about 2 weeks after the report was made when they called me and told me I had a warrant.
All right. What month and what year was that?
Oh, I'm not for sure on that. Maybe 2022, towards the middle, I would want to say.
Towards the middle of 2022. Were you still living together at the time before you moved out?
At that time, she was living here, but she moved out because she put a restraining order against me. That was dropped as well.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a sense of the timeline here. The incident that you were charged for occurred. Were y'all living together at the time?
Yes, sir.
And is that what caused her to move out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you said the charges were dropped. Did you ever have to go to court for that case?
No, sir. They said there wasn't enough solid evidence for me to have to go to court for it. We went to court for the restraining order, but not for the actual violence.
Okay. And was there a restraining order that was put in place?
Yes, sir, there was.
Okay. Is that restraining order still in effect?
No, sir, it was dropped.
When was it dropped?
I would have to say a couple months after.
Okay. What did the restraining order tell you not to do, or her not to do?
That we couldn't be around each other within, I think it was 500 yards.
Okay. Is Miss Shelton welcome at your residence if she were to have visits with Paisley, bring Paisley to you to have the visits?
Yes, sir.
Do you live with family currently?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does your mother live with you?
No, sir.
Okay. Who do you live with?
My grandma and my grandpa.
Okay. Your grandmother was designated as one of the supervisors for the visitation. Was she ever available to supervise the visits or no?
She was there every time.
Okay. And well, you say every time, but was she ready to go every time? Because it sounds like there was only one visit. So was she at that one visit?
Me and her drove down there every time, and she was at that one visit.
I see. Okay. Did you drive down every time? Like the times that Miss Shelton let you know that she had to work or Paisley was sick? I mean, did you still drive down there?
Yes, sir, because it's court ordered.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Okay. Is it true that there was an incident where your house was broken into and someone came into Miss Shelton's room and was standing there and was high on drugs?
Yes, sir, that was one time, and that has never happened in my 24 years of living in the same house.
Okay. And was that at your grandparents' house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell the court your work history? Are you working right now?
I'm working for myself.
What do you do for work?
Right now I'm doing brush hog and land clearing.
How much do you earn doing that?
About $600-700 a week.
Okay. Um, so 650 would that be fair to say what you make right now?
Yes, sir.
A
But
week?
I mean, everything I do for work is weather related. If it rains, I can't work. If it's too cold, I can't work.
Okay. And so, do you have any other children besides Paisley?
No, sir.
Do you know if if Miss Shelton has any other children besides Paisley?
She does not.
Okay. Miss Shelton said that you lived together with her and Paisley for about 4 months on an off and on basis. How long would you say that y'all lived together?
Me and Taylor have been off and on until I would say about the beginning of last year.
Okay, the beginning of 2022?
Yes, sir.
All right, but y'all were living together in the middle of 2022, so how could y'all have been off at the beginning of 2022?
I'd say it might be more towards the middle of 2022. I have pictures and like I've got all the evidence for all of that. I mean,
All right. So Paisley has been, she is 3 years old, and prior to the temporary order, she was 35 months old. Of those 35 months, how long would you say you lived together of those 35 months?
At least 22 to 23, off
Okay.
and on.
Lying out his teeth.
All right. With regard to child support, do you believe that child support should stay the same as it was from the temporary orders?
I mean, it could, but if it goes up a little bit, that's not gonna hurt me none as long as I'm able to see my daughter.
Okay. Do you have any health insurance available to you or no?
No, sir. I'm fine with paying the extra $100 for her to stay on Taylor's mom's insurance.
Okay. All righty. When y'all weren't living together, did you ever give Miss Shelton any money for Taylor's support to buy like food or clothes?
No, sir, I did not. There was multiple conversations we had where I told her that I would buy it from Walmart and she could pick it up, and she did not want to do that.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to tell the court with regard to these issues? Oh, there's one thing I forgot to ask you about. The last name. What do you want Paisley's last name to be?
I want her to have my last name.
Okay. And why do you think that's in her best interest?
I mean, she's my kid. I would like for her to have my last name. I mean, I don't know how else to.
I hear you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Poole. I'll pass the witness.
Yes, sir.
Okay, haven't counted the number of times you could have had a visit between the temporary order and now, but assume you have. If you made all those trips, but not visiting the child but one time. Is that what I understood, Mr. Poole?
Yes, ma'am.
How many trips did you make?
4.
And you only got the one visit where it all went to hell.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Shelton has alleged that either your mother is violent or your background's violent or your neighborhood's not good. Can you respond to all that?
The incident where the guy coming into the house, I've lived in the same residence my whole life. That is the only time that has ever happened.
And that would have been your mother's residence?
My grandma's residence, where I'm currently living.
Oh, I didn't understand, but this happened at your grandmother's when y'all were there, when child was really young?
Yes, ma'am.
So is Miss Shelton saying is your grandmother and your mother's residence far apart or in the same neighborhood or?
My mom has moved to Kaufman.
So you think Miss Shelton's referring to your grandma's residence then?
Yes, ma'am.
How big is the town you're at?
It's small.
How small?
I think we have 2 gas stations, and that's it. There's in a dollar store.
And what about drug addicts across the street or sex offenders that need to register?
The sex offender that she is talking about does not live on this block. His parents do, but he does not. He lives 20 minutes from here.
So it's so much better.
And what about a drug addict neighbor across the street or something?
Across the street there was one, but his camper burnt down. So there's no drug heads that live around that are my neighbors.
Do your grandparents live in a campground or I'm not following?
No, we live in a newer model mobile home, like a house, not a trailer.
But is it a community of mobile homes?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's not shady or run down?
The back of it is not.
The what is not?
The back of it where we live is not. The only that there's one little part that's shady, and there's 2 campers at the entrance, and that's it.
Is it an established community where they provide security? Or are y'all on your own lots or
We're on our own lot. We're out in the country.
So you own the lot you're on, or are you renting it from a provider?
No, ma'am, this is owned.
Okay. And there's not been other crimes committed at or near your grandparents' residence in the last 3 years of Paisley's life?
That has anything to do with us? No, ma'am.
Well, what are you saying? Are there break-ins and stabbings or I'm trying to think what's the worst thing
No.
that's happened in the neighborhood? Well, does it happen surrounding you even if it's not at your home?
Occasionally somebody will go to jail down the road, but it's not nowhere in the meat facilities around right here.
And how big is the mobile home?
It's a 14 by 80 mobile home.
How many bedrooms does it have?
3.
Would you have room for Paisley there, or how would you make room for her?
She has her own bed, her own room.
And your grandparents obviously own it and you live there with them. How long have you been living there recently?
My whole life.
And is that where you said you and Taylor lived when y'all were together for bits and pieces?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they retired, your grandparents?
Yes, ma'am.
And what can you tell me about their backgrounds? Anything that I need to be aware of, whether that includes violence or arrest convictions of any kind or drug use, abuse of children, anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Nothing. They're clean, solid
Nothing.
citizens?
Maybe traffic violation, but that'd be about it.
Okay, well, Thank you for your candor. I don't consider that terrible, but most everybody has some kind of traffic violation in their lifetime, but nothing serious, no convictions, no jail sentences, no arrests, no drama, those kinds of things.
No, ma'am.
As far as you know, Protective Services wasn't ever involved in investigating whether there was any neglect or abuse of children in their home, whether they're their children or grandchildren or anything like that.
No, ma'am.
Are they there right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How old are they?
65.
Roughly both of them?
Yeah, roughly 65 and 68.
Okay. So how do you tell me again how you think you see this should work for your visits with Paisley? Whether they're supervised or not, or by who and for how long, and at what point things should change? And I got to tell you both, we're not going to ask the child if she's comfortable. We're not going to let her decide what should happen. This is an adult decision. And yes, kids are sometimes not comfortable because they haven't been in that environment. That doesn't mean they can't get comfortable fairly quickly, or that other parent, or sometimes strangers at daycare, you do what you got to do, and kids are flexible, but you have to put them in safe environments. Now, Ms. Shelton is saying that you're not a safe environment, Mr. Poole, and I'm trying to figure it out. All I have is a he said, she said here, and I don't want to make a mistake. How guarded should I be or should I not be with this child in your possession, and who's going to be around, and why I should trust you, Mr. Poole? Do you want to address me?
I would never let anything happen to my daughter, by no means. That guy, that's not even questionable.
Okay. And you said, or did I hear that the altercation between Ms. Shelton and your mother, that was the first and only time that's ever happened?
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Shelton alleged your mother started it, and I think I heard you allege that Ms. Shelton started it. Can you help me resolve that conflict there in your testimonies?
I mean, like I said, me and Taylor were talking, and we kind of got into a little bickerment, and my mom pretty much said that we needed to quit, and we needed to quit using Paisley as a crutch. And Taylor got mad, and they got into an altercation. Taylor jumped out of the back of the car where she was sitting. My mom was sitting in the back seat with Paisley, and Taylor pushed my mom and swung. It is all on camera. She swung, and then my mom defended herself. I split them up 3 different times. Taylor kept going back. The third time, I grabbed Paisley and walked away from them in the middle of the parking lot while there's people standing everywhere.
Well, it can't be both ways. And that's my predicament. Nobody else was there that can testify to what happened?
My grandma was.
How would she know?
She was standing right there. She helped me split them up.
So for that visit, not only was your mother there, your grandmother was there?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she do this whole time?
We tried to split them up, and they split up, and it was right back at it.
Paisley witnessed it, or did you get her turned around so she couldn't see it, or what happened with Paisley?
Paisley witnessed the beginning of it, and I grabbed her and walked down the parking lot until they were through, and then Taylor come and got her out of my arms, called the cops, and went and got in her car.
And how did you try to break it up? Specifically, where was Paisley when you were obviously trying to get in the middle of it to stop it? How did you handle that?
Well, the first 2 times Pay was in the car. The last time, in the process of me trying to split them up, Pay was trying to grab a hold of Taylor while they were fighting. And I grabbed Pay and I walked away from them through the parking lot.
Paisley was in the car with Taylor, with your mother, and the altercation was happening in the back of the car?
The altercation occurred on the outside.
Okay, then I thought I just heard you say they were in the back. I don't know what you meant or what I misheard.
No, Taylor was sitting in the back of the car where the hatch opens up, the trunk part, and my mom was sitting in the back seat. and they both got out and met beside the car when the altercation started.
And what happened to Paisley at that
When
point? Where was she?
she was in the car, by the time I split them up multiple times, she had made it out of the car the third time and was trying to grab Taylor around the leg, and I grabbed Pay and walked off.
Okay. Okay, anything else you want to say for the time being? I'm not done, but it's 10:30 and I might need a break. And we need to check in some people from the waiting room. Anything else you want to say for the time being, Mr. Poole?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Valderas, this would be a good time to break. I see a few people in the waiting room.
Yes, I believe so, Your Honor, before resuming the hearing.
Okay, y'all can stay in here and you can mute yourselves and stop your audio so you're not visible while we conduct other business. The same thing happens with me. However, I can hear everything, so don't. I just unpaused my record and we're back on the record. We've taken care of a little bit of business. If anybody comes in, Mr. Valderas, make sure somebody lets me know. We can let them in. It looks like we don't have too many latecomers here in the late morning docket. So we'll proceed. I think I was done with any question on Mr. Poole. Mr. Valderas, do you have any follow-up for Mr. Poole?
Not for Mr. Poole, Your Honor.
You want to recall Ms. Shelton?
Yes, Your Honor. State will recall Ms. Taylor Shelton. Ms.
Okay.
Shelton.
Yes.
It occurs to me that one of the things I wanted to ask you about earlier was what would be your concern if Mr. Poole had Paisley by himself without supervision? Why would that concern you?
Because he's a stranger. Why would I do that?
Well, how would you describe Paisley and Mr. Poole's relationship with each other?
They don't have one.
Like at all?
No.
Okay.
Paisley, and when Kyle was saying that we were together at the time that we were together, we were not. I was fully committed in a fully committed relationship with someone else. For a year and a half, I was in a relationship, and Paisley gained a relationship with this guy, and all she knew is that this guy was around all the time and that he was showing her love and affection. And then there was a point in time where she was calling him dad, not just because I was influencing her, but because she didn't know any different.
Okay, Ms. Shelton. So you said you were in a relationship with another individual,
Yes.
and that person was around that Paisley formed a relationship with that person.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell the court, did you and Mr. Poole, did y'all try to ever live together as a family?
Kyle was living with me at the time that my grandma was passing away. It was not my choice. He chose to get up and leave. That was his choice. He walked away from our family.
Okay.
And at the time, Paisley was less than 2 years old. And after he walked away, he saw Paisley a total of maybe twice.
All right.
But that was his choice. I had always texted him and told him that I would allow him visits at my home, and he never wanted to be down here because he says that him and my mom do not get along. My mom and Kyle have never had no sense of mean words. She would not have allowed him to be here at the time that my grandma was passing away if they didn't have a certain relationship.
Okay. So he's the one that left.
Yes.
Did you not want him to leave?
I'm not gonna beg someone to stay.
Was this after y'all had an incident of family violence where you said there was
This was
involved?
even after the fact.
So y'all lived together even after that event?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, based on both of y'all's testimony, it does sound like y'all had a pretty rocky relationship. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. When did you have this year and a half relationship with someone else? Was that right after Paisley was born, or approximately
This
when?
was after me and Kyle separated when he chose to leave back in August of 2022.
Well, okay. So So since then, there was another relationship since August 2022. Is that relationship still ongoing?
No.
No.
We
Okay.
are friends though for our children because he has a son that was my bonus baby for a little bit, and then Paisley caught an attachment to him, so we're still very much friends and civil for our kids.
Okay. And so, other than that, the not knowing each other very well aspect of visits one-on-one between Mr. Poole and Paisley, is there anything else that causes concern that you would not want them to be together by themselves?
Because he's not responsible.
Okay.
He's
Was there
tried to take her.
incidents?
Well, the whole reason the domestic violence charge occurred was because Kyle was intoxicated, and he was determined that he was going to yank Paisley's car seat out of the car and put it in his truck and take off with her. And I refused to allow that to happen. So we got into a fight because I was standing at the door like this, telling him he wasn't going to take Paisley anywhere. And he was determined to do it anyways because he was drunk. Who's to say that's not going to happen again while there's no supervision?
As long as you've known Mr. Poole, did you think that he had a problem with alcohol? Or does
Yes.
he? How often would you say he drinks, as far as you know him?
Every day.
Okay. Is he often intoxicated, as far as you can recall?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I believe even after Paisley was born, he caught even after he went to jail for the charges and everything that happened with us. He went to jail like 2 times after that, one for a PI, and then I think the other one was for my charge.
Okay. Is this another reason why you don't think that the visit should be at his residence?
Yeah, I don't think his residency is a safe environment, and his mother does live on that premises because she has a room in that house. She's always there.
I believe Mr. Poole said that his mother had recently moved to a separate town. I forgot the name.
He said that.
But you don't believe it?
No, she lives on that location. She's always lived on that location. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't do anything of her own. She doesn't claim anything. She doesn't have any finances coming in. She lives in that home because she doesn't have anywhere else to go.
Okay. What about the possibility of a third party supervisor, an agency that for money, for a fee, supervises the visits between a parent and child?
I'm not
Would you
okay
be
with
open to that? Why not?
Because why am I going to place a stranger in my daughter's life for her own safety? That's not going to make her feel any more safe or secure.
Okay.
There's not a valid reason for it.
Well,
what is a valid reason that my mom can't supervise?
Well, hold on, Ms. Shelton. I just want to ask you some questions here. You've said that you've had incidents of domestic family violence in the past.
Yes.
When you and Mr. Poole were together in the same place, and there was an incident. If the court orders that visitation be at your residence where you are you concerned that could happen again?
No.
Why not?
Because it would be supervised. It would be in my home, and Kyle's not stupid. He's not going to lash out at somewhere that's a residency of mine. Being supervised by someone under me and Paisley's care.
Okay.
And safety.
Your relationship with Mr. Poole, were there a lot of incidents of physical altercations?
6 total. He
6
left
total?
bruises on me a total of 6 times. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Shelton. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, I heard 2 different stories about the altercation at the one visit. First of all, from your side, I didn't hear that from either of you. I didn't hear that the paternal grandmother was there. Is that true, that not only the grandmother, but the great grandmother was there? I'm sorry.
Yes, they both were.
Both there. And you heard Mr. Poole's account. trying to figure out who's telling the truth, because it can't both happen both ways, so.
I know, because he's lying out of his teeth, but Miss Poole got out of the car
Is
and
that
came
his
to the back
mother?
of the car
Wait.
where I was standing.
Let's
Yes.
just establish, because I don't know people's names. Miss Poole is paternal grandmother.
Lisa,
his mother.
yes.
Okay, she got out of the car. Go ahead.
And when he said that she started calling me names and harassing me through her, verbally harassing me, got out of the car. And by the time she had got out of the car, I already knew what was going to happen, because she's just a physical violence kind of person.
Okay, then what?
Me and Kyle wanted to take Paisley after the supervised visit, and I simply told him no, because I had to work and I paid for Paisley's daycare. And we have supervised visits for a reason.
I'm talking about the visit still at when you did happen and in the car, the altercation. I'm not.
Yeah, that's what this is about.
Well, no, I'm asking what happened after the grandmother got out of the car. Not
Oh,
about
she came up to me.
texting in bed. Okay.
She got out of the car and got up into my face, and we got into a fight.
How did you get into the physical fight?
Because she got in my face and was talking, just running her mouth.
And then what'd you do?
And then we got into an altercation, a fight.
That doesn't tell me who struck the first blow, if y'all were fist punching each other's faces. Who struck the first blow?
She did.
Not like he says that you did?
No. His grandmother and his mom both gave their side of the story. If that was Kyle's story and he was determined that that was the right thing, why didn't Kyle tell the cops that then? Why did he just say nothing?
He said there was at least several times that you were at each other and he was trying to pull you away. So that's
And there wasn't. It happened once.
And where
And
was the
then
child?
after I called the police and informed them what was going on, she was still following me behind my back, just talking up a storm. If I was the one that started it, why would I have called the sheriff's department?
Why would you strike somebody older than you in front of your child?
Because I was self-defending myself. I'm not going to take blows to the face and not defend myself. Who would just sit there and get beat up in front of their child?
Some people would walk away if their child was there.
I tried.
Is there anything else you can help me to tell me any details that might help me figure out?
I really can't, because the supervised visit was from his side of the family. I was the only one. It was just me and my little girl there.
Family's story. I'm asking you, what else other details you can provide to help me determine what actually happened? Because I'll never know, and all I have is the he said, she said, which is my job, but I got one of you's lying, because it can't have happened both ways. Anything else you want to say about that particular incident, particular details?
She was in the car with my daughter, with my little girl in the back seat. Started talking her crap, got out of the car to come start stuff with me. I don't see how there is anything else to explain.
Well,
she walked around to the back of the car where I was at and got in my face to start stuff with me.
Okay, if you were in the back seat and she got out.
I was in the back hatch of the car. We were sitting in the trunk. The hatch was open. And she was in the back seat with my little girl. Opened her door, slammed the door, got out and came to the back to me.
Okay. And then?
And then we got into a fight.
And the child was in the back seat still with? Yes,
ma'am. She was still in no, she was in the back seat of the car. Kyle was in the back. She was by herself, and then the great grandma was in the driver's side seat.
Is there any truth to the fact that he came and got the child and walked away with her to get her out of there?
Yes, he did. I went and took Paisley from Kyle when I called 911.
So why would he be the one to try to stop this thing and take the child away instead of you?
I was being attacked by Lisa. I don't understand how I can just grab my child and walk away from the situation.
If you were in the back outside the car, and the child was sitting in the back seat inside the car, if somebody struck a blow at you, you wouldn't have pulled away and walked away and gotten the hell out of there?
That was my instinct when I called 911. That's why I called 911.
But not till after you punched her and more happened, more punches, or just one punch each? You were there, you tell me.
I did. I am trying to tell
I'm
you.
asking you, was it more than one punch each? Did it continue?
Yes, it was more than one punch each.
Exactly how did that happen? What else were you doing? Slapping at each other's bodies or punching more in the face? I mean, physically, tell me what happened. I need to know to see if what's believable or not.
I was against the, she came around to the car. I was against the car when the altercation started. She hit me. I hit her back a couple times to push her away from me, and Kyle got in between us, got his mom away, got me away. I called 911. I was on the phone with 911, and then I went to go get Paisley. And the cops told me to go sit in my car. And as I was going to sit in my car, Lisa was following behind me, like just talking up her storm. And then his great grandmother followed me all the way to my car, and then started altercations as I was trying to tell my mom what was going on. Started talking her crap to my mom, where the cop had to escort her back to the car, back to her car.
Great grandmother, the grandmother.
Yes, the great grandmother that was supposed to be supervising our visits.
And no more punches were after that, after y'all
No.
reached your cars?
No, when I was in my car, I buckled Paisley in her car seat and gave her a book as I was talking to the cops.
So when did the part that he walked away with the child happen?
That was after. That was as I was on the phone with 911. He had taken Paisley and walked away with her.
How long was he away?
Not long, like maybe 2 minutes.
How long did it take for the cops to get there?
Probably about 5 minutes.
And how long were they there?
They were at a Christmas parade right beside the mall, so it didn't take them long to come over.
So did the grandmother ever physically assault you in any way?
No, not the great grandmother. No.
Talked words to you. What were the words she talked?
Oh, just that they didn't do no wrong, and she was trying to explain everything to my mom, getting ugly with my mom.
And what do you mean by ugly when she says she's trying to explain things? That doesn't make sense to me. Is she being ugly?
She was trying to explain that they did no wrong, and that Kyle does no wrong, and then called my mom a bitch. And at that point, I was like, you need to quit trying to make the situation worse. And as you know, I told the cops that she needs to go back to her vehicle, that she has no business after everything happened to be by my car, but that family doesn't know how to stop ever.
Did she walk away?
Yeah, she did, after the cops escorted her back to her car.
And you haven't had any contact with either of them since?
Nope.
And your contact with the grandmother before that? Well,
I don't have any contact with any of that family anymore.
but while you were living there, what kind of relationship do you have with them or her, the grandmother?
She can't really, it was decent. I don't think his grandmother is a terrible person.
I'm talking
but
about,
she will do anything in her power.
about the grandmother. I'm talking about his mother.
Lisa? Oh yeah, me and Lisa have never gotten along. I've had my words with Lisa a couple times just because she's nothing but a freaking drug addict.
Had there been physical altercations between you and Lisa before?
Just words.
And why? And your answer for the violence is that you couldn't help yourself because you got hit first.
I was self-defense, or else I wouldn't have put my daughter in that kind of situation. My daughter should have never been in that situation to begin with. And if there wasn't a supervised visit, then that would have never happened.
Well, it seems like the real issue is you all in the same room together, the families, or you and maybe not necessarily Kyle, but you and his mother in the same room. It's not a good situation.
Nothing is a good situation about this situation.
Well, I'm trying to figure it out. And the answer is not no, he doesn't get to see her. No, he's a stranger. No, no agency or anything. No, 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 just under your nose, because that's where the toxicity is. It looks like to me, y'all should not be under the same roof. So I'm trying to sort things out because I have to. That's my job, since you all can't. And that's how we do it in a civil society. You come to court and the judge tells you what to do. So I'm trying to give you your day in court, trying to figure out what happened and why, and how we can move beyond this, because he's still a parent. He's not a stranger. He's a biological father. He's got a technical relationship, now legal relationship, and he's entitled to certain rights. So I'm trying to figure out, even if we go slow, or even if I test him with fast, just to figure out what happened and how it progresses. If you want to terminate his rights because you think he's a whatever, you go to another court with another pleading and another judge. That's not what I do here. Here we're establishing rights and relationships, and something's going to happen. It's not going to be your way or the highway. Okay? Got it?
It is in Paisley's best interest to have someone supervised that will not allow altercations for like that to happen. I'm not saying Kyle can't have visits with his daughter. I'm not saying that he can't try to be a parent. That's not what I'm saying. But I will, however, not put me and my daughter in a situation where we get put in dangerous situations like we have in the past.
Be in the room with the supervision or in the relationship or the visitation. That's where it starts. And that maybe his mother shouldn't be around either, or be a supervisor. So I'm trying to figure it out. And because, you know, it's like I'm supposed to have a magic answer for you people that everything's hunky-dory and I can fix it. I've got to figure it out with the distance, with the estrangement, with the family violence, with the young child. That's my job to figure this out. I've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm going to do this in your case too. And maybe we take baby steps again, because nothing happened on your own with the last order. So I'm going to have to see y'all again and again and again if I have to, till we get to the point where I figure out if it's working or it's not working. And then I do whatever I need to do at that point. So
what would be wrong with my mom doing supervised visits? That is someone who Paisley is comfortable with, who she knows very well.
Well, the wrong part is that you want your house with you there. And it's like, no, you're not
I don't have to be there. I told the attorney general that if he wanted me to be somewhere else, that I would be.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened to the attorney general. You're not with the attorney general, you're with me. So I need to hear whatever you need to say. If you said it before, I didn't hear it because that was separate negotiations, and I don't need to hear what happened there. This is court.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is what I hear is what I hear here, and I don't know what happened there. So the other problem is the distance. And again, y'all created this distance. It seemed like it was mutual, that you were there.
He chose to walk away. He chose to leave. That is not me putting distance between us. He
Where was the
chose to
last
leave.
place you lived together?
In my home. With my
Where's your home?
if him and my mom had altercations, okay, he was living in my house while my grandma was on her deathbed. My mom would not have allowed that if they had altercations.
I heard you say that once, and I've heard it again. I understand that. But when you say your home without giving me an address, is that your mother's house, wherever you are right now?
No, we moved that was in Myersville, Texas. We moved to Cibolo, Texas.
Okay, I didn't follow that because I don't know these towns, or if I heard them right, or where they're close to. Is that over by his area, or is that over by?
No, it's still a 5-hour drive either way.
So wherever you are now with your mom is not where you were living with your mom when he was with you?
Correct.
Okay, so where was it again?
In Myersville, Texas.
Myersville?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that close to?
It's South Texas, by Victoria, Texas.
That's further from Mr. Poole. It wasn't anywhere near where
It's still a 5-hour drive. Either way you look at it. We live 5 hours now. We lived 5 hours back then.
Oh God! And now what county am I in? I have 6 counties. You're in Guadalupe County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but it's all far, and there's been distance. Whatever separation it was, there was always distance.
There's always been distance.
Like physical long distance between you all. So the first time you separated, you went where?
Home. I went to Myersville.
Okay, and you met at his wherever you were going to college, which is closer to where he was. Is that right?
Yes.
And
it was an hour away.
Some of the pregnancy or all of the pregnancy was up there?
No, my whole pregnancy was me and Kyle were separated.
Okay, and when did y'all get back together?
Kyle didn't choose to meet Paisley until she was 5 months old.
I heard that, but where did y'all live when the child was born?
He lived at his house and I lived at mine.
Myersville.
In Myersville, yes.
What part where did y'all be off and on again until August of 2022? Where was that? And including 4 months that you said he was in the house with you with the child or something like that. I thought I heard.
I lived a couple of months with Kyle and Kyle lived a couple of months with me at my residency.
And the other couple of months, or there was no other?
There were only a few months where we lived together.
Did you say you lived a couple of months with him and then came with a couple of months with you?
Yes, he lived at my residency for a couple of months and I lived at his residency.
That would be in the 2 different places that were at least 5 hours apart.
Yes.
And the off and on until August 2022, how did that work? Where were you, whether it was off or on?
I was at my location and he was at his location.
And when you were on?
Just
where did he
2 months at his residency and 2 months at my residency.
So you did continue some long distance back and forth? Is that a yes for the record?
Yeah, sorry, yes, ma'am.
So you'd only be happy with supervises about your mom and your location, and he does all the travel?
Yes. I don't think it's in Paisley's best interest to be in a car seat for 5 hours.
Well, it's
just to benefit his own needs.
People locate at different residences, and there's still some law that I need to apply here. It's not just about what you want for the child. I get that, but there's lots of times that children have to travel to see other parents, whether it's long distance from hours of, on the plane or whether it's driving. Yes, that does happen. Otherwise, they might never get to see their children. And that's the whole point of this. But again, did I state it just right? You're not going to be happy unless it's your way. It's going to be.
No, ma'am, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I feel like you're only looking at what's in Kyle's best interest and not of the interest of my child.
I'm looking at everything because I also have to include him in the picture. I can't cut him out and say, go away, you're too far, you can't have anything. Child can never be in the car to come see you, no matter if both of you created this. I can't do that. So I'm trying to figure out the best case for you is what you've told me is you want your mom supervising over here in your location. What's the second best? What's the third best? Anything closer to dad?
There's nothing in between here and Tool, Texas.
That's not what I asked you. What's the next best offer you can make on visits if it's not 100% your way?
I don't know what there is. I'm not looking at what's in my best interest. You keep saying what you want. I'm looking at, this is a safe environment for Paisley. This is something she knows, something she's comfortable with to establish a relationship with Kyle.
And for how long?
Which until they establish or build a relationship.
And how long do you think that would take? How many of these visits would it take to do that?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I can't operate in I don't knows because I
just know that Paisley's not comfortable with Kyle right now, and I'm not just gonna release her to someone who she doesn't know.
Well, you do
like
get
6 months.
You do get that whatever I do will be a court order, and you do have to obey a court order. You get that?
Yes.
Anything else you want to say, Michelle?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Am I allowed to call a witness?
It's already 11:10. I don't know. I don't know what else I have, and I'm not supposed to be having day-long hearings here with my volume docket, so we'll see. Who would you call and for how long to tell me what?
My mom.
And what do you think she would tell me? What do you think her testimony that would help would be?
To testify the safety of Paisley.
Well, that's
and to give a better to give a better overview and of our whole relationship?
No, I think the best people give me a relationship scenario is you, and you already did, and I'm very clear about it. I don't need somebody else's opinion who didn't live it. The question is, I would not dispute. In fact, I could probably predict what your mother's going to say, how safe your environment is. That's not the question. The question is, why is it not safe over at Mr. Poole's with supervision by maybe grandparents or some other different scenario?
His grandparents were there. I just want to keep in mind that when Kyle beat the shit out of me, excuse my language, his grandma tried to beat him off with a broomstick. Okay, that is not the kind of environment or kind of people I need my daughter to want. There's going to be a scenario. What if
Mrs.
something
Sheldon,
happens?
Did you just tell me that his grandmother is trying to protect you by beating him off of you?
With a broomstick.
That's not, well, but she's trying to protect you, not him?
She
Is that
in
what you said? I
situations
want to
like
make
that,
sure
she
I
allows
understand
it
what
to
you said.
happen.
I want to make sure what you just said is what I heard, that she beat him off with a broomstick to try to protect you.
Yes.
And you don't think she'd do the same to protect your child?
My daughter shouldn't be even be involved in situations like that.
Should not have a mother that punched the grandmother in front of her. That's what also should happen. Does that occur to you? Does that occur to you at all?
That did occur to me, actually.
Okay,
it did.
but you still chose some action as self-defense is what I've heard. Fine, but you still did that. So why should I not believe that the grandmother, the great-grandmother of the
The
child,
one with multiple assault charges, I have nothing on my record. I'm a full-time college student. I have a full-time job. Why would I invest in time like that? I have more to live for than that.
Why you think the child would not be protected by the grandmother being during the visit or at her home and protect the child if Mr. Poole were to get out of control or if he'd be drunk or whatever else you've alleged? Why she would not be a good supervisor?
Because she's gonna do anything beneficial for Kyle. She'll lie for him. She'll cover up her tracks for him.
Even if
not
she
somebody
beat him
I need
off with a
supervising
broom to
visits.
protect you. You don't think that says volumes as well?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, thank
She'll
you.
also sit there and tell you that he does no wrong, that he didn't abuse the crap out of me.
Anything else, Ms. Shelton?
No.
Okay, Mr. Valderas, any follow-up from Ms. Shelton?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Poole, you have to be there. You want to unmute?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to figure out what I can do somewhere. It's called a compromise. It's called, because a lot of times in family law, you don't get what you want, either of you. And I may start slow here. So after everything you've heard, and you've heard all of it quite a bit, and even after the discrepancies I've heard, why should I not believe that maybe there should be some supervision, and how could I handle that so that you can see your child? Where, when, under what conditions and locations and hours and times and specifics that I have to resolve for you all. So Mr. Poole, I'll give you the floor. What else do you want to say in response to Ms. Shelton? And I'm not letting you off easy either. I'm going to ask you the hard questions too. So go ahead and tell me what you're thinking right now before you forget.
I mean, I don't see any harm of me being able to have my daughter. She would not be in harm's way by any means. I mean, even if I had to go stay when I have pay at my aunt's house, which is in a nice neighborhood, and there's nothing but my aunt and my little cousins. There's nobody that would be there. There would be no conflict by any means.
But you've heard about the violence that you've committed on her. Why would I not think that you're still capable of something around Paisley, even if it's not to Paisley?
It's the violent stuff that she has said. Some of it has been true, but a lot of it she has left out. Taylor is a violent person. She is bipolar and has not been taking her medication as she is supposed to, which the records on the pharmacy will verify that. And I am more than happy to go take a drug test right now and alcohol screening.
So tell me why your grandmother, not your mother, but your grandmother wouldn't be an adequate supervisor, would not protect the child in case you got out of control.
I have no idea. No, I would never put my daughter in harm's way, by no means.
Is it true that your grandmother would lie for you or protect you just to get Paisley over there?
No, ma'am. It comes to court, she's not going to lie for me because she knows she could go to jail and be held in contempt of court.
Why would she go over and try to make things better, but really be making things worse and call Miss Shelton's mother a bitch on the phone?
That was not exactly how that went down. Taylor called her mom and was explaining everything to her. Her mom proceeded to call me a piece of shit and that I did not take care of Paisley by any means.
Was she on speakerphone, or how does these conversations take place?
Yes, ma'am. She was on speakerphone. My grandma was over there. My grandma defended my name and said pretty much, like, and I wasn't there. I don't know the exact words or none of that. I mean, my grandma probably did say a couple cuss words, but I mean, I didn't physically hear it or see it to be able to say that.
Beyond that, is your grandmother had charges on her?
No, ma'am.
Miss Shelton's been alleging that, or I think I heard her say that. Why would multiple assault cases or violence on her part? Is your grandmother there?
Yes, ma'am. She's right here.
No, his mom.
She's talking about my mom, but my mom doesn't live here. Like, she's not here.
So how does she support herself? Ms. Shelton says that she's a deadbeat and wouldn't be able to support herself if she wasn't living in your household with her parents. So how is she taking care of herself that I should believe she's not there?
She draws unemployment because she has a broke back.
No, she doesn't.
Well, usually unemployment requires you to be able to work. If she's got a broken back, chances are she probably couldn't work. Are you sure it's unemployment? Social Security or what? Something?
I'm not for sure on that. I don't get into none of that. I know that she has been doing a lot of stuff for unemployment because she has 2 rods and 12 screws in her back.
Okay. It occurs to me y'all haven't been alone in your video at home, wherever you are with, I think your parents or your grandparents are there, both of you. And so it wouldn't be fair to call witnesses now that have heard your entire side of the story and can now tell me their side based on what you said. So it doesn't seem fair. I would want to talk to your grandmother, but that's also no longer fair. And if I talk to your grandmother, I'll have to talk to her mother, which also wouldn't be fair. She's been in the room and listened to everything as well. So, y'all boxed me into a corner here. I might have let you have witnesses if you'd been alone in the room, but I didn't ask and you all didn't tell. So I just let it go. Now, I regret that.
I have the paperwork from when Pay has been down here and been to the ER. I have all the text messages from me and Taylor. I got all of it in line because I knew that something like this was going to occur today. There's text messages of her saying she wants me to just sign my rights away. It's pretty brutal.
Okay, tell me how I resolve the concern, and I have it too, because I'm supposed to be looking out for the best interest of y'all's kid, whether y'all like it or not, and whether you agree with me or not. Now, long distance travel is hard, and why should I make her travel the whole way, one way or the other way? So you want to address that, Mr. Poole? Because y'all don't live in the same town. It's not as easy as going across town.
I have no problem meeting Taylor halfway, by no means.
But you get that you can't have longer visits that way. And you're in a strange town you got to be, I guess, in public the whole time. And that already didn't happen. It already didn't happen. And that's why we said it this long, to let something happen, and it didn't. So I have no high hopes that meeting halfway is going to create anything different. You do, Mr. Poole? You still want to meet halfway and have a 5-hour visit somewhere in the middle of where?
I have no expectations of either way you said it going like it's supposed to.
So Ms. Shelton doesn't think its child should be traveling the whole long distance to you. So are you willing to come to her location? Or
If
can
I'm not,
you? If what?
if I am not supervised by her mother,
Well, here we go again. Who would you have supervised if you're in her location? It can't be her, Miss Shelton either. That's part of
my
it.
I can have my aunt do it.
Your aunt would go with you the whole way to come visit?
Yes, she would.
How old is your aunt?
Oh,
I mean,
39, 40?
okay. Is she working? Or
No, she is a stay-at-home mom. Her husband works on an offshore oil rig.
would she have time, or she'd have to bring the kids on a weekend visit, or where have you had to come all the way down to where Miss Shelton is?
Her kids are 19 and 17, and
Okay,
they both drive.
so that wouldn't be an issue?
No, ma'am.
You have transportation, whether it's your vehicle or her vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Does she have anything in her background that I need to be worried about?
Nothing. It's clean.
No drugs, alcohol, prescription drugs, nothing?
No, ma'am.
And you think Miss Shelton would agree with your aunt? I haven't talked to her about that.
I would. I don't see why that would be a problem.
There'd been no bad words or altercations between Miss Shelton and your aunt?
No, as far as I know, her and my aunt have a pretty good relationship.
So you'd be willing to come down? Could you come down for a Saturday, spend some time with the child, and even on a Sunday, if it's overnight over here in Miss Shelton's area of residence?
The only problem I have with coming all the way down there is work. If I get rained out during the week, I have to make it up on the weekend. My job is weather related. That's my only catch to that.
Okay.
Other than that, I have no problem with it.
Except that I can't predict the rain. I can't predict, we're going into winter. I can't predict the cold. I can't, you work on the weekdays normally and weekends off, except for when the weather prevents you and you have to push it into the weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't know till the night before whether the weather's going to be bad or till the morning of?
Till the weather gets here.
Well, I know there's weather reports and I know you can't trust them all the time, but how do I craft something that says it's specific? So Miss Shelton knows exactly and doesn't try to wiggle out of it, or not agree with you on a makeup time or whatever else. How do you think I could make this work, Mr. Poole, if you're going to come down here at least a few times?
I mean, and that's kind of why I was wanting pay to come up here, because if I had to work on a weekend, I would work till noon and I would get off. That way I was still able to spend time with my daughter. By the time she got up, I would be back.
You got any other ideas?
I really don't. That's about all I got.
If I made you go pick up Peyton for the weekend and bring her back, and the aunt and grandma needed to supervise the whole weekend, and then mom comes gets her from you, and you each travel one way, is that anything that could remotely work from your perspective, Mr. Poole?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Shelton, do you have, if you'd unmute, do you have any reservations about the aunt?
I don't see either of those options. I do have his aunt is a good person, but I've asked her on every account that I've tried to do the supervised visits if she was going to come, and she always said no, because her kids work full time. She's a full time mom, and when her husband's home, she doesn't leave her house. She does enjoy Paisley, but she just doesn't have the time. She's not going to make those supervised visits. If they were to be in my home with her, I feel like she wouldn't come. So either way, it's still just going to be Kyle coming down here to see Paisley.
What's your speculation that she won't come? It's up to Mr. Poole to talk her into it, or he thinks she can do it. But you
Well-
would object to her if she were the supervisor.
That would be fine. If she wanted to come down with Kyle, I would be okay with that because we do get along fairly good. We've never had any altercations between each other.
And I don't want to go back and hash out whose fault it was to not do the makeup visits, but these visits are important. This is the testing ground. This is the only way I have to resolve your issues, whether he's going to step up or he's not. And if they don't happen because the child's sick or he didn't call in time or he called too early, not right on time. I mean, you can't do that, Ms. Shelton. If he calls, he calls. If he tells you he's coming, you need to let him.
I
have the visit.
offered the visits to be rescheduled on Sunday, and I let him know in advance every single time.
Okay, and your story was, Mr. Poole, why didn't those makeup visits happen?
There was multiple different reasons. One was Pay was sick, and the other one was Taylor did have to work.
But
I'm
you
not.
said she gave you makeup times. Why didn't you go through with it?
Oh, no, she did not.
Yes, sir, I did.
Here we go. I tell you, this is what I get. He said, she said, you can't both be right. So I will.
I
stop
have
you there.
the text messages
I don't
asking
care
for
right now.
makeup
It's too late.
visits.
I don't care. It happened. It's done. We can't make it up. I'm telling you from here forward, it's a new day. Now you see me. Now it's another different judge's order. You're going to see me again. And guess what? I do this for a living. I have multiple cases all the time. I will see you again and again and again, no matter how long it takes for me to resolve this. Usually it doesn't take that long, maybe once or twice. Now I've had cases I've hung on to for a year and saw you people every 3 months to finally get to where we were going, or to figure out it wasn't going and it's over and y'all do something else somewhere else. If you think he's that bad and you want to terminate his rights, go to a lawyer, get another pleading, go to another court, Ms. Shelton. I'm not doing that here. I'm going to see if it's going to work and how it's going to work and see if it works and figure out who to blame if it doesn't work. Anyway, anything else you want to say, Ms. Shelton? You're muted, Ms. Shelton. Anything else you want to say?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Valderas, anything else? You need to make a closing?
Your Honor, I think with regard to this case, the state's not opposed to further temporary orders in this case. In which case, if the court's in agreement, then to reserve the retroactive child support issue, to reserve the surname issue, and continue the temporary orders as is, except perhaps with an altered visitation schedule, which the state will leave to the court's good judgment on that, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I think the testimony has been, I think, elicited to, I guess, start another visitation schedule, but that's the state's position in this case.
Is there any change on the support? I didn't quite hear any math or any, well, I might have heard.
Your Honor, Mr. Poole testified that he makes between $600 and $700 a week doing what he does now, which is, it does sound like odd jobs. I calculated child support based on self-employment and income at that rate of $650 a week. That comes out to child support of $432 a month with no other children before the court, and giving him the credit of $100 towards the medical support. So that's what with child support, I think, would be according to child support guidelines.
Let me ask you again, what was the number for what?
432.
432?
Up from 287.
And that doesn't give anybody credit for travel expenses.
That's right, Your Honor.
Or like that. I think the previous child support I heard added $100 to the child support for travel expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let me talk to you, Mr. Poole. You said you might have some wriggle room to do a little bit more child support. What did you mean by that? Is 432 enough, or what? How do you feel about the 432 number?
I can do $432.
You can do child support?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As long as I'm able to be paid.
Well, let me tell you right off the bat, I should have said this an hour and a half ago, is that child support is not dependent on getting visits, and not getting child support does not have anything to do with whether he has visits or not. They're not dependent on each other. They're separate and apart. I'm trying to get you a visitation or get you to a point where you get what parents are supposed to have. And right now I'm going to have some wiggle room to try to figure it out to get you started. But if she denies you visits, you're still required to pay child support. Okay?
Okay.
And if he doesn't pay child support, you have no authority to deny visits, Ms. Shelton. Did you hear that, Mr. Poole?
Yes, ma'am.
Both of those, did you hear that, Ms. Shelton?
Yes, I did.
Okay, those are separate, independent obligations. There are remedies for that. While it's a temporary order, nobody will take it up to bring it to court to try to hold the other in contempt. The state usually waits for the final order before they'll enforce anything regarding child support. And just so you're aware, Mr. Poole, visitation is a privilege and you get to exercise that privilege. But if you don't take advantage of it, it could alter your rights in the future. So what you do between now and next time I see you is going to help me. And if you have proof of whatever happened that went wrong and not the he said, she said again, and if you want witnesses next time, you can bring them. But when we start a hearing, I don't want anybody in the room with you, or I'm going to try to remember to ask you, or you remember to tell me that you have a witness and I need to see the room, that they're outside the room and I need to tell them certain things, because there are certain legal things we have to go through before I let witnesses testify, and not just sitting there hearing your half of it so they can come in and jive their story with yours. Okay, that's just a no-no. So I need you all to help me with that. If you want witnesses, you tell the AG up front, and we keep those in witnesses outside the room so they don't hear anything at any point in time, and they can come in with a clear, would not be prejudiced by your testimony. So that's for next time. But loud and clear, visitation and child support are separate. And where I was headed on the visitation part, at some point you have a final order. I'm hoping that if things work well and you all settle down and you all are not in the same room with the people that aggravate you the most, that maybe you have a chance with this child having a relationship with you, Mr. Poole, and you have a chance, Ms. Shelton, that the child will not grow up with no father, an absent father, because that has consequences too, and that is not in the best interest of the child either, no matter how convenient it is. And again, if you think, and if you can make the case that Mr. Poole is as bad as you said he is, and you need to be in another court with a termination, that's on you. You have the right to do that, but that's not where we are today, and I don't hear those cases. And you have to hire lawyers to go do them because there's complicated enough where I don't think you could do it yourself in a Texas court. Okay, then we resolved most of this except for the visitation, but just so that I know what everybody will know what the order is going to say when it comes through, I'll go from the beginning. It will be a further temporary order. So it's going to be different from the last time, but probably just on the child support and the visitation. At the beginning, dad is the dad, paternity was established, you're still the father. Parents are still joint managing conservators, mother's the primary conservator. There's no geographic restriction since you already don't live close by, and picking up and moving is too late. That happened already. We're not going to make a finding a minimum wage presumption. The state will do the math to show what the monthly gross is to support the child support of $432 a month based on dad's testimony of $650 a week. Child support of $432 a month, I assume would start January 1st, Mr. Valdetta, since we're still in the middle of,
Yes, Your Honor.
December. So January 1st, 2024, $432 a month child support, $100 a month medical support, same start date. Is it the government medical program that's in effect, or is it private?
It's through Ms. Sheridan's through another source. Ms. Shelton through another source.
Mothers to provide the insurance through another source. I do remember that now. However, there is a provision that anything not covered by the insurance, it's a responsibility on each of you. That's the standard thing in the last order. It'll be in this order too, that there's a 50-50 split for whatever is not covered by the insurance. But it also says, Ms. Shelton, that if for some reason, if you're the one that's ordered to provide the insurance and you fail, let's say it lapses or your relative no longer carries it, then you would have 100% obligation. That's just the way it is. If you've been ordered to provide it, it's your liability if you no longer provide it. And I'll see you again if something changes, so we have to tweak that part. So 50-50 for uninsured expenses. I'm gonna reserve the issues of the retroactive support, the surname, and even the non-disclosure finding. We haven't found that in the past order, correct, Mr. Valdez?
Your Honor, on the last temporary order,
Or was there?
there was a non-disclosure. In effect, there was no, both parties' information was kept confidential besides their phone number and email address, but there was no specific finding.
Okay, well, then just reserve it and keep the parties' addresses off the order just to, in an abundance of caution for the court to rule next time or the final.
Yes,
order.
Your Honor.
Okay, so the non-disclosure issue is reserved. On the visitation, I guess I'm down to the last and hard part. What this has been all about. You know, you said something that's real telling, Ms. Shelton, that you wouldn't even want to leave your child with a stranger that's a licensed daycare agency or a licensed place that is well versed in this and can do this and does it for as a business, whether it's nonprofit or profit, and are in the business of being in the middle of difficult situations, because sometimes that's the last resort. But it is important in our society to have something like that, because not everybody has a person that can supervise for free and can take the time off and have incur the expenses and all those kinds of things. Now, I'm not going to supervise agency, but Ms. Shelton, that you're so, what's the word, adamant that even that would not be in your child's interest. Well, it might be in a certain case. I'm not ordering it now, but you're taking the same position that dad is a stranger. You were a stranger at birth, you know, you got to be around the child. You know, I know nobody gives you instructions, nobody gives you manuals, nobody makes it easy for you, but it's still another parent to consider. And that's what these courts are all about, trying to get there. And every case is different. And this is one of the harder cases I've seen in a while, although I had a bunch last week, back to back to back. But they're all different. There's nothing I can go to that says this is the right thing for this case, this is the right thing for that case. I've used my best judgment and get whatever evidence I could get out of you that was similar in nature, and figure out who's lying and who's not lying, or think both of you are telling the truth and think that both of you are lying, depending on the perspective. Because I don't have anything else to go on, because I don't know you all. All I know is what you presented here. And I don't think Dad is actually a stranger. We spent several hours, at least once the other day, and it's a 3-year-old with a memory, you know? I just don't think it's as bad as you're making it out to be, that it's zero relationship. Now that he's here asking for visits, I've got to tell you, I think that's a plus. That doesn't carry him over the burden, and that makes me think he's ready for standard visits and every other weekend and 30 days in summer and alternate holidays and a ton of stuff. I don't think he's there yet by any means, but that's what parents normally get, even when in lots of other cases. And that's what the law says is the best thing for your child if we can get there. So we're not going to start there. I'm hoping we end there. But for right now, what I'm going to do is put the burden on you all. Again, you created it. And the way I only see it working is if you have some skin in the game. So Dad, you want to see the child. Let me see how this works. Because it worked for another case I just did, is like, if you come get the child and mother has to come get the child from you, you go get the child and you're entitled to get the child, and you take the child the whole way back to your house with a supervisor on the road with you and with somebody in the house with you overnights. And then mom, you want the child back, then you travel back to go get the child from him. That's the only way I see where this is going to actually happen, where you have some, again, skin in the game, where you want something, you got to go get it. And you're not going to let your child stay there for the whole week because you don't want to make the trip, ma'am, to get your child back. And Dad, you want the child, you got to go pick up the child. So that's what I think I'm going to do, at least for maybe a couple of 2 or 3 short months, to see how that goes. What I normally do is have to set specific weekends now, and make sure And I assume you're going to take advantage of these, Mr. Poole, because if you come back in 2 or 3 months and say, I only had 1 visit, part of it's going to be you that you didn't go get the child. Now, if I hear that Miss Shelton was the one that you showed up and she didn't let the child go, you're going to have some backup on that. And including you would if you have a supervisor on the road with you and is there with you when she denies you the visit. However, I don't want you getting on the road knowing Miss Shelton already knows something went wrong and isn't going to hand the child over. So Miss Shelton, if there's no advance visits and he just shows up and you're expecting him, is there a problem with that?
So let me get this straight. You want to put it where Kyle gets to come all the way down here, take my daughter to a hazardous place that's unsafe and fit for her for the benefit of Kyle?
No, no, and no. And I'm not going to buy into your scenario because you said all those words. I did not find any of those things. Just because you think they're true, I did not find evidence to support that. That's what I heard was a lot of things that were concerning about you as well. Well, I'm not taking the child away. I'm not calling CPS on you, although I have the authority to do that if I hear anything worse down the road or things happen under my view here. But if you want to describe it that way, and that's how you're going to tell everybody what the terrible judge did to you and your child, fine. But that's not what I'm finding, or I wouldn't even consider it, ma'am. You haven't proved it just with your words here today, because what I've seen is a lot of give and take.
How do I know it's going to be supervised? If he were to take off with my child and take her to East Texas, how am I supposed to know as a mother that it's going to be supervised?
Because he's got the supervisor in the car with him when he comes, knocks on your door. If you want him to go somewhere else and not to your door, that's fine too. And he's going to have somebody with him, the aunt preferably, but I would allow the grandmother as well, the child's great grandmother. And so he's not alone, at least on the trip. Now, you telling me you're living there with relatives, so I assume you're going to have the child there overnight, Mr. Poole, and I don't see any problem with that as long as the visits occur in your residence, which is your grandparents' residence. And we're not going to say what the addresses are here, but I'm going to put it in there that that you can't come without the supervisor to pick up the child, so you're not alone in the car with her. And then you can't have her overnight without supervision at your residence at a certain address. But if you go for a day trip to the park or some McDonald's or something, I'm not making everybody be attached to you in the daytime for every second of the day. But for the trips and for the overnight part, yes, you do have to have somebody there at all times, Mr. Poole. Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Can it be your grandmother or your aunt?
Yes, ma'am.
Those are the only two that I'm approving, not just whoever you want.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's going to be restrictions, no alcohol, no drugs, no violence, none of this stuff. You don't have guns in your house or anything I have to worry about. Do you, Mr. Poole?
They're in a safe.
They're locked?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton hasn't made any mention of that, so I'm going to assume there's not been a problem in the past with unlocked guns being accessible to your child.
No, ma'am. There is not.
Okay, I don't know what else I can do. I'm gonna see if it works, and if you violate it some way, somehow, or Ms. Shelton, you have proof of something, you bring it. Because I'm not trying to put your child in danger. I'm just trying to let her get to meet her dad. And so far, it's not all been good, but I haven't heard, it's not the worst I've ever seen either. So if he's not sitting in a jail cell he hasn't been already. And I don't know what happened to those family violence charges or why they weren't prosecuted or why you weren't prosecuted and the grandmother wasn't prosecuted already for that altercation that you alleged happened. If you had some other proof that I have not seen here today, it might have been a different story, but I didn't hear it. So that's what I'm going to do. Yes, ma'am. I did say he picks up the child with a supervisor from your door, and I let him go to his home where it also be supervised overnight by the parental grandmother or the aunt. And then you go pick up the child from him to bring the child back home. Yes, if that's the way that works.
So Paisley will be doing 10-hour drives. That's even better than the 5-hour drive.
Yes, but there's a distance between because it'll be Friday to Sunday. So she gets the overnight and the benefit of the whole weekend. It's a weekend trip. And it's not all at the same time. It's not 10 hours in a row. It is split. I didn't create the split. You did. So I have to figure out what will work. And this is what I think will, at least for starters, will work, whether you like it or not. If you want to move
If
closer
his,
and there's
if
less
his,
distance, fine.
if his aunt was okay with making the drive down here, or even being the supervised visit halfway, what would be
Because you're in the middle of a town where you're stuck with whatever few hours that you can be there before it's time for you to drive back. So that's not much of a visit. Because now you're telling me that the aunt who can't do anything because of the husband, the kids, the this, the that, now she doesn't have to do all that. She can be the supervisor on the trip, and the grandmother can supervise the weekend, and they can tag team it. And it's not taking her away from her responsibilities, her life, her family, and those other things that you mentioned were going to be a problem for her. So that's what I think will work. What else, Ms. Shelton?
just make sure they don't smoke in the house. When my daughter was a baby and we were living there, she had multiple respiratory infections all the time because they smoke in the house.
Well, smoke isn't good for anybody, including secondhand smoke. Mr. Poole, is there any way you can keep people from smoking in the house while the child's there?
No.
Nope. They need to go outside. They don't need to be puffing smoke in the child's face. But it's not against the law to smoke. I don't control everything, Ms. Shelton. But Mr. Poole, if you're protecting your child, then that's something you need to keep her away from. Are you saying, are they chain smokers in your home, including your aunt or your grandmother?
His grandpa.
She goes outside all the time and smokes. There's never a cigarette lit.
Well, then it's your job while the child's there, and before she gets there, if the house is all smoky, you clean as best you can, or you use whatever products you need to clear the air. I can't put this child in a lockbox where nothing will ever touch her, Ms. Shelton. I can't. But I do expect, Mr. Poole, that you've heard the concerns. You know what the concerns are. You shouldn't aggravate it. You should help assuage Ms. Shelton's mind or soul that you're going to take care of your child, even if it tells your granddad, don't be smoking around my child, or you have to take the child out for a minute or whatever, or a while till it clears. I expect you to do what you need to do to protect that child, including from grandfathers, great-grandfathers smoking.
Yes,
You heard
ma'am.
me, Mr. Poole? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So the question
I
was,
don't think Paisley being away from me for 3 days straight is in her best interest.
well, of course
She
not.
does
And then
not
you get
have
what
a
you want. Dad will never
relationship.
have any visits, and the standard visitation order that I'm supposed to follow that the legislature imposes on us. The child's 3. I could say he wins, he gets standard visits. I'm not doing that. Children need to be with both parents when y'all are separated, not just with you 100% of the time. There will be a time when she goes to school and she won't be with you 100% of the time. You probably don't have her in daycare for all sorts of reasons, I'm sure, including that you can take care of her better. That's fine. But no, the child can be gone from you from 3 days. No, there's a parent that also wants to take care of her and wants to be in her life. And you don't get to control that anymore, Ms. Shelton. Up until now, you have. Now with this court order, you can't. And I'm going to be watching when you come back on exactly what happened and who did what to whom, because I'm sure we're not done yet. Anything else, Ms. Sheldon? Because you're going to make every objection you already have. I already heard them. So is there any new ones that I haven't considered yet?
No.
Okay. Then that's the way it's going to work. I'm going to I have to be specific because y'all will never agree on a specific weekend or anything if I set it up that way. So I'm going to say the 1st, 3rd, and 5th.
I can't do that drive every weekend. I work.
I didn't say every weekend. I said every 1st, 3rd, and 5th. I haven't finished. You're talking and you're muted, so I can't hear you. And I don't want you to talk. I want you to listen. I didn't say every weekend. I said one way during a weekend, and it's not even every other weekend. I could do 1st, 3rd, and 5th, but because we're just starting, I'm not going to do the 5th weekend because sometimes that coincides with the 1st, and I'm not going to look at the calendar and see if that's okay or not. I'm just going to say the 1st and 3rd weekends from Friday, can you be down here by 6, or does it have to be a little later because of the drive, Mr. Poole? Are you gonna make it Friday, or would it be better Saturday morning?
I can make it Friday afternoon.
Friday, 6 p.m.? Because there's a long drive back and it might be late when you get there, but that's the way the ball bounces. 6 p.m. Can you make it 6 p.m.? That's the standard. From Friday, 6 p.m.
I'm not giving her.
And I'm not gonna do till Sunday, 6 p.m. I'm gonna do because Mom, you'll have to be on the road back with her. What time is her bedtime? Miss Shelton?
Did you unmute me?
No, you did. What time is the child's bedtime?
8:30.
And it's y'all have both said it's a 5-hour drive. Is that accurate, Miss Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes, Mom.
Okay, I'm gonna say till Sunday at 4 p.m. That gives you time to get her to bed or get home at least by no later than 9, I presume, and get her to bed. And she's not in school right now, so I'm not gonna be concerned about that. So first and third weekends, Dad drives to pick up the child from Mom's residence. Did you want him to come to your house? Would that be the easiest, or do you need to meet him somewhere else? Which means you need to divulge your address in the order. So, Ms. Shelton, did you want somewhere else or your address?
My address is fine.
Okay, pick up the child from mother's residence the first and third Fridays at 6 p.m. And Mom, you pick up the child from Dad's residence at 4 p.m. on Sundays of the visit. And does she have that address already, Mr.
So
Poole?
I'm driving 5 hours to pick her up, and then she's gonna ride another 5 hours back.
But you're both gonna do that, yes, on one day, yes. You didn't give me a whole lot of options. I'm trying to pick something out of thin air that I think might work. If you'd given me a little better option that was a little bit less one-sided, I might have gone with it, Ms. Shelton. That's the way this works when you're in a court. You're no longer in control. And you're lucky I gave you this much time, because I usually don't have this much time to give. Okay, Sunday at 4 p.m. And he gets to do it too. So that's what I'm doing, and sharing the burden. And it's only twice a month. Now, there's something called electronic communication and visitation. Do you do FaceTime or anything like that on social media where y'all can communicate, where he can see the child on days he's not visiting, Ms. Shelton?
Yeah, I ask Paisley all the time if she wants to FaceTime him. When she doesn't, she doesn't FaceTime him.
Well, I'm not asking the child anymore. I'm putting in an order. Tell me what days and times would work, and tell me through what kind of social media, and it will happen.
Kyle has my phone number.
So is it FaceTime? What is it?
That's fine.
And what days of the week and what times would be good? Once a week?
Anytime after I get off work at 6.
Do you get home at 6 and you're ready to go, or do you get home before 6?
About 5:30 is the time I get home.
So 6 would be the best time for you?
Yes.
Which days of the week, or how many times a week? In Shelton.
Twice a week.
Which days would be better?
Anytime throughout the week, just not the weekend.
Okay, do you get home by 6 p.m. on most work days, Mr. Poole?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I'm asking him now.
Most days, yes, Mom.
So which days of the week would you prefer, if it's not weekends, to FaceTime with the child?
Tuesdays, Wednesdays.
Can you spread that out a little bit more? Mondays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, what would, so that there's a break and she sees you, the more often she sees you, the better for you. So if you did this every week, this would help. So you're not the stranger on the weekends that you could be. So do you want a Tuesday, Wednesday? That's what you said would work better for you? You really want back to back?
No, ma'am. Any day of the week.
No, I get to write it down, but I'm asking you what'll work. So not Saturday or Sunday. And you said Tuesday, Wednesday. I was offering Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, but
Monday.
What was it?
Monday, Wednesday.
You said any day except Saturday and Sunday. So is there any reason Monday, Wednesday wouldn't work, Miss Shelton?
No, it's fine.
Okay, so electronic communication on Mondays and Wednesdays weekly for a period of no less than 15 minutes. I know she's got a short attention span, but y'all can at least look at each other, try to keep her engaged for 15 minutes between the hours of 6 and 6:30. So you can make the call, Dad, it's gonna be incumbent on you, the burden's on you to call. And then Mom, you have the child available during that time for at least a 15-minute visit. Any questions about that, Mr. Poole?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Shelton?
No.
It also says that any other reasonable times and for reasonable durations. So if y'all can make it work and y'all communicate and you want to do a little bit more, y'all are free to do that. The other part I'll tell you is that it's in the order on the visitation part. It says that failing mutual agreement, then this is the order, what I've ordered here today. But if you all by some miracle reach an agreement for something else that is workable, I'm okay with that. It's just you haven't been able to do that through now. So I'm forcing the issue. This is my order. This is what I think might work. Y'all are obligated to follow it. And then I'll see what happens. But if you find a way to make it work for some other days, some other times with other meeting places, with supervision, no supervision, whatever, if you all can reach an agreement, it's a mutual agreement. And I would put it in writing because y'all have not agreed on anything yet. So one said one thing and then the other one heard something else. I'd want it in writing if I were you. And then you can do whatever else you think by agreement that will work. Yes, ma'am.
When I had first got on the call, why is it that I wasn't able to drop the case when the case is over child support and I don't legally owe the state anything because Paisley's Medicaid is paid up to date? Why is it that I can't drop the course? Because this is a family case course. So I thought you were to speak for the state's half and not me and Kyle's half.
I am the judiciary. I rule on cases that are properly before me. The state is a prosecutor. They bring cases. They have a lot of cases they bring. They come to their office a number of ways, one of which is if you're on government assistance, you don't have a choice. They bring the case. Now, this
But I'm not on government assistance.
I know it's not, but I don't know how it happened, and it's not my business to ask, and the state probably can't even tell me whether you filed for services or whether Dad filed for services or who the recipient of the services is. It's not just you saying I want it or I don't want it. Now it's my right to drop it. Once it's here, and I'm not dropping it because I see a dispute. And if you go away, I don't think anything will happen between you. You won't get child support and you will get visits. And even if you think that's best law and the courts, and if you're separated, it is my business if there's a case here. So if you want it to go away, I don't know how it could or would. You talk to the AG about it or go get a lawyer. And Mr. Poole, you can do the same, get a lawyer, talk to the state. And but they don't have to drop it. It's not on just your decision, Ms. Shelton. You can talk to them about and I can't speak for them because I don't work for them. They don't work for me. We're all separate entities. I don't represent you. State doesn't represent you. And I don't represent the child. My job is to look out for the best interest of the child, just like yours is. But this is how we got here. I don't know why. And that's not my business. You are here and this is my job to resolve it. Case drops the state usually drops very few cases. And again, that's not my business. You talk to them. So electronic communication, actual visitation, twice 2 weekends a month. I'm assuming you're going to go to every single one. Do I need to put an advance notice, or you can at least be a courtesy call that you tell her I'm on my way down. I'll be there at a certain time, and it should be 5 hours after, or by the time you're supposed to get there by 6 p.m. But it wouldn't hurt if y'all were civil and communicated that. Do I need to make it a court order, Mr. Poole, that you tell her a certain time ahead of time, or you're not going to be there? Or actually the other way, if you're not going to go, you need to tell her to call and cancel just out of courtesy. Is that what I'm understanding, Mr. Poole? You're going to be at every single visit?
I'm going to be at every single visit that she allows me. I'm going to be at every single visit she allows me to get paid.
It's not that she allows it. I'm allowing it by court order. The question is, in the past, it might have been an excuse if you didn't call by a certain time, or you called too early, you called too late. So I'm saying I'm not putting an advance notice requirement because I believe you're going to be there. And if you're not, it's going to tell me a lot about your interest in your child and whether I do something else that's less or worse for you, sir. But if you're going to be there and you document it, take pictures, put it on your calendar, you're going to have somebody with you all the time. They can mark their calendars as well. Because I don't want to, he said, she said that it was 1 visit or it was 5 visits and y'all can't even agree on that. But the thing is, if you're not going to go and she's sitting there waiting for you and she's prepared the child for it, that is not in the child's interest if you just don't show up and she doesn't know why and she might be upset about it. So I would tell you, if you're not going to go, you need to cancel. And it should be long before you're supposed to be there at 6 o'clock. So Miss Shelton doesn't have to rush home and get the child ready and make sure everything's ready to go. So if you're gonna not go, you need to cancel the visit ahead of time. And no later than what time, Mr. Poole? Because you have to get on the road by what? 1 o'clock to be there by 6?
Yes, ma'am. On a Friday, I'll probably have to leave here about 12:30
Okay.
to beat
So
traffic.
you're gonna cancel the visit, you would do it by 12 o'clock on the Friday of the visit, correct?
No, I'd like the notice before then.
Okay, how much earlier do you need it to know that the
I'd
child?
like a 2-day notice before Friday.
Why does it require a few days' notice? If something happens at the last minute and he can't go, or the car isn't working, or the supervisor not available, why does it have to be days ahead of time? Why couldn't it be the morning of, Ms.
So that I know, so that I can plan around it. I shouldn't have to wait all up until the day of to know if what I'm gonna be doing or how to go about Paisley. And my work schedule.
What time do you go to
too.
work? What time do you go to work?
I go to work at 8:30.
So if you tell her by 8 p.m. the night before, Mr. Poole, you would know if you're not going or not? If you're
Yes,
going or not?
ma'am.
Is there anything wrong with that, Mr. Sultan? I'm not gonna
Yes,
get
I
you
would
dates.
like a notice beforehand.
Well, if I
That's
do
not
8
enough
p.m.,
time.
what are you gonna put
The
together?
night he's gonna let me know at 8 o'clock the night before.
If he cancels, that means he's not coming together and you can go about your business and you'll have your child. I don't see
Okay.
a problem with that. It's not making you more of a burden, it's a less of a burden. So
And what time is he gonna be picking her up Friday? Because she does go to school and I do work.
I've been saying, you haven't been listening. I said Friday at 6
6.
o'clock numerous times. I thought
Okay, I'll just double checking.
Friday at 6 o'clock on the first and third weekends of the month, and you look at the calendar and you see the first Friday of the month, that's the first Friday of the month. The third Friday, that's the third Friday. And then he returns her by 4 o'clock or you pick her up no later than 4 o'clock on Sunday so you can make your trip back. And if you're gonna cancel, you cancel by 8 p.m. the night before the scheduled visit. Which means you all need each other's cell phone numbers. And is there any reason she can't come to the house at your grandmother's to get the child from you, Mr. Poole?
There's no reason for that, but she would have to unblock me off her phone for me to be able to get a hold of her.
Good Lord. That brings up something else. If y'all haven't been able to communicate, there's an app for that y'all can get online and tell each other things, and it'll be there. You can't delete it. And if you need it for court, I think it might cost, but there might be a report made available. It's called App Close. I'm going to set that up for most of your communication. Last minute communication, if he's on the road and there's an emergency of some kind and he's stuck somewhere and he's going to be late or something else happens, Ms. Shelton, you don't want to receive any phone calls from him?
I'm gonna unblock his number.
Okay, then you know what, Mr. Valderez, I'm finding no non-disclosure because we're divulging addresses and phone numbers, so apparently nobody's objecting at this point, so
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm not reserving the non-disclosure. I'm finding there's no non-disclosure needed in this case. So App Close, y'all can communicate all sorts of other things, including I don't know, pictures, photos, reports, doctors or daycare, those kinds of things. And if y'all need to communicate about visitation, you can do that there as well, but not last minute visitation. So if you want to tell her on App Close the night before at 8 p.m., you put it in the app, or you text her, don't call each other and make it a big deal and fight about things right before a visit. So, which would you prefer to receive it, that he's coming or not coming, Ms. Shelton? Or that he's not coming on app close or by text?
Text is fine.
Okay, so cancellation of anything by 8 p.m. by text to the mother's cell phone.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then app close communication is there for your use if y'all want to communicate that way and maybe make things easier on y'all instead of calling each other. Okay. I've done the two things, actual visitation and electronic communication visitation. That's all I can think of at this time. Anything else you would ask for, Mr. Poole, on connection with the child that I have not considered?
No, ma'am.
Can you think of anything else that might help, Ms. Shelton, and without taking away what I've ordered?
No.
Okay, then if y'all think of something, talk to each other, communicate rationally, civilly, and hopefully by app close. If you figure something else out, you have it in writing, that'd be great. If you don't, then do this and I'll see what happened and see who's behaving, who's not behaving, and we'll go from there. The last thing I need to give you is restrictions, no alcohol, no controlled substances, no
Yes.
smoking. I didn't write all that down, but you'll put it in the order.
Yes. Did you want that to be 24 hours prior to each visit?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
during the visits.
Yes, and during.
And I think those were the only other restrictions I would have. And then the last thing would be a reset date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, you still have to draft of order. I still have to sign it. They have to look at it. I have a chance to look at it and have it signed. Today's the what, the 12th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You know, because if I tell the AG they're going to draft it, they're going to send it to you, you get to review it. You get no more than 1 week to sign off on it. If you're not going to sign it, that's fine. If the state puts on their signed as to form only, that means that you didn't agree with what I ordered, but you acknowledge that that's what I ordered, not that you're in agreement with it. So if you'll do that for me, Mr. Valderas, maybe they'll sign it quicker. If it's as
Yes,
to
Your
form
Honor.
only, you look to see if there's anything there's an error in there, there's something you don't understand, whatever, you call the AG to resolve it with them. But if I get it no later than a week from today, then it'll still be in time. Well, there won't be first and third week. Yeah, there will be. I take it back. I was thinking of the 5th weekend. But I didn't order a 5th weekend, so visitation probably won't start till January, Mr. Poole, unless y'all work something out on your own. Otherwise, I'm not even gonna go there now. So reset for, if I do that, visitation starts in January. There'll be 2 visits. In February, there'll be 2 visits, and hopefully a bunch of electronic visits. 1, 2. In March, there'll be 2 visits on the 1st and 3rd. We have a Guadalupe docket. Let's go to March 26th.
Yes, Your Honor.
I can see 3 months worth of visits. That'll be 6 visits, and maybe we've made progress. Maybe we haven't. Maybe I can tweak it. Maybe I can end it, or maybe y'all can end it for me if y'all figured out something on your own. But we can put it in writing here. The court date is March 26th. It's still a Tuesday in Guadalupe County by Zoom of 2024 at 8:30 in the morning. Now you're here in open court and you're under oath, and I'm on the record. I'm telling you your next court date is Tuesday, March 26, 2024 at 8:30. Don't forget, please be present. Please log back in. If for some reason, this is a civil matter. We can't have you arrested for not showing up in court on a civil matter. However, if you're not here, the consequence is you get defaulted, which means you're not here to tell your side. So if you don't want to play this game, Ms. Shelton, and you're fed up with me or the court or whatever, or the AG, and you don't show up, the worst thing you could do, because we go forward by default, and whatever I hear that day is what I base my rulings are, and you're not here to tell me your side or advocate for your child, then that's on you. That will not be my fault. You're on notice date. March 26, 26. It's a Tuesday, the last Tuesday of March.
Yes,
of
ma'am.
next year, 2024 at 8:30 in the morning is gonna have the
8:30.
same Zoom ID. Now, Mr. Poole, it's going great. You come here and tell me that, and maybe we go to the next level. It's going pretty bad, and you still want visits, and I still need to help you because you can't work it out with her. This is the only place you're gonna get. So you come back, and if you don't come back, and I hear all sorts of sad stuff that happened and things that didn't happen, and you're not here to respond, then you're gonna lose your case. You both need to be here, or if you're not here, one of you loses very badly by being defaulted by not being here. And it doesn't go away, and don't call the, well, if you forget, if you lose your order, if you have no clue, you call the AG. But you're on notice today, and you should mark your calendar, put it on your refrigerator door, do whatever you need, tell people to remind you, put it on your phone as a whatever, an alarm or something, so you can be here. Because if you're not here, we don't wait on you. We don't wait till 2 or 3 o'clock, see if you showed up. We go. And if you're not here, we go without you. That's the way it works. Any questions, Shelton?
No.
Any questions, Mr. Poole?
No, ma'am.
Your job is to settle things down and make this work and let the child have a relationship with each of you. That's what I'm trying to do. And if you can help me, great. If you can't, I'll keep doing what I do, and whether you like it or not. Okay, I've said everything 10,000 ways, so you hear it, you know it's important, and now I'll let you go. All you have to do is click the end meeting button, and you're done with court today.